There's a popular saying in leadership that if you think you're leading and there's nobody following you, you are only going on a walk. On this platform, you are going to learn principles of leadership. You are going to encounter different leaders. You are going to learn about how you can grow as a leader, how you can make an impact. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm the host for the leadership platform. I am a leadership coach, a lawyer by profession, a John C. Maxwell certified coach. I have been in corporate life in senior positions for several years, and now I run the Center for Transformational Leadership, where we train and coach leaders to become better leaders. And I invite you to go on a journey with us as we discuss the subject of leadership in the coming weeks.
This and every Saturday, you have opportunity to ask questions, share your views on important leadership matters.
Hi, dear friend. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm the CEO for the Center for Transformational Leadership. And I'm bringing to you the growth journey. We've set aside 15 weeks of growth to help you to be intentional about your growth. Where do you want to reach in your leadership? Which area of your life do you want to grow in? Growth doesn't just happen. It has to be intentional. So in these 15 weeks, we're going to have a special coaching sessions with you to be able to grow to where you want to grow. And to be able to grow yourself, you need to know yourself. A lot of us are not achieving the maximum we can achieve because we have not invested in our personal growth. We're going to help you in all and more within these 15 weeks. Every week we'll have a session with you. This program is limited to only 15 people. We're going to have 15 people for 15 weeks, and we're going to learn 15 great growth lessons on this journey. So make a date with us and see you on the growth journey.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the leadership platform. We are glad that you are all able to join. Please, if you have joined, we encourage you to let us know that you are here with us. Type in the comment section your name and where you are joining us from. And again, please do us the honor by sharing this link with your family and friends so that they can also join and benefit from today's conversation. So today we are having a discussion on the topic that we have entitled How Successful Leaders Identify and Develop Other Leaders. And we are honored to have the CEO of CTL Africa, Mr. Samuel Eyim, to be our host for tonight. So without much ado, I will invite on board Mr. Eyim to take over.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, and once again, welcome. And that was Mami Bafo, who joined us all the way from Amsterdam, and most of you probably have not met Mami. Mami is part of the team. He's supporting and is a great social media marketer, and she's helping also CTL to do the marketing. So we want to thank Mami for that introduction. And Sarah is around on the platform also, and all the other team members are here to support. So we thank you. And as Mami said, please introduce yourself. Already I can see some people have introduced themselves. We have William Darfo. William, welcome to the leadership platform. Willis Kweku is here, and he's from Tema. Thank you, William and Willis, for introducing yourself. Gerard is here. Great to have you, Gerard. Join us. Thank you so much. And I can see Frank Asian has also joined us from Cape Coast. So go ahead, guys, and introduce yourself. We are always happy to announce to the world those who are here. We know that some of you do not introduce yourself. So many of you have said to me privately, you're going to join the platform. So I know you are all there. So we thank all of you for making the time to be on the platform. Thank you very much. The team, Douglas Amwatin has also joined. So we welcome Douglas. All right. So this evening, we're going to have a discussion yet on another important subject. So let me see if I can share my slide, and then we can start. Just a second to share my slide. All right, there we go. Voila. So tell me if you see my slide, Mami. Just say hi, I see it, or Sarah, or anybody, if you can see my slide. Yeah, good. Okay. So, Mami, can you see my slide?
Yes, I do.
All right. Thank you so much. So, how successful leaders identify and develop other leaders. This is such an important subject. It is important, as we will see shortly, because the world needs more leaders. There's never been a time where you go to an organization and then the organization tells you, oh, we have a problem. What's the problem we have? We have too many leaders. So we need somebody to come and help us to throw out some of the leaders. It never happened. If any organization has that, that must be a really good problem to have. Very often what you have is that you have organizations, churches, and businesses who are struggling to have leadership. We know in Africa, in our countries, the biggest problem we have is that we don't have leaders, or those we have are not so good. So this evening, we're going to discuss a few questions that leaders, successful leaders, actually grapple with, and how they develop other leaders. So, and then we would open the floor. Now, the first point I would like us to focus our attention on is a question that has always been asked: are leaders born or made? Now, there's so many theories around this. Certainly, some people are born with some abilities, some leadership dispositions. And some people think that they can never lead because they don't have such dispositions. They're not confident enough, they're not eloquent enough, they're not action-oriented enough, so they think they cannot, that they're not. Some people, many people think that, some people, God just brought them just to be leaders, and they cannot be leaders. And actually, some leaders think that other people cannot be leaders, and so they just pack them. Now, so though many think that leaders are born. As Vince Lombardi will say, contrary to that opinion of many people, leaders are not born. Leaders are made. And they are made by effort and hard work, unquote. That's Vince Lombardi. So anybody can develop as a leader. It is true, some people have some qualities, and as we go around, they have innate personality that predisposes them. But several people have similar personalities, but they don't lead, or they don't lead well because they have not developed it. So you may have the talent, but if you don't develop that talent, you cannot be a leader. But whoever you are who think that you don't have any ability, with training, with practice, with coaching, with more learning, you can be a leader. I mean, there are different types of personality profiling, and we have leaders from all the personality profiling. The different temperaments can produce leaders. So your temperament alone or your personality profile alone is not enough to qualify or disqualify you from being a leader. So that's the first thing we want to underscore. So if leaders can be made, then it requires effort. This understanding is critical for leaders to understand that other people can develop their leadership qualities. Those of you who are Ghanaians on the call will remember our former president, Jerry Rawlings, at a point where a lot of when he came to power through a coup, and people were calling for him to hand over to civilian rule. The question he asked was, hand over to whom? He did not believe that anybody else around him could lead the nation. And it happens to so many people in business, in churches. They don't say it that loud, but they think that they are the only people who can lead and nobody else can lead. That mentality in leaders can impede their ability to develop as others. So we want that clarified, that psychology, that mentality, attitude. People need to understand that everybody can be developed and can be prepared, trained, and equipped to be leaders. It may be easier for some people than others, but everybody can. All right. Now, the other point, the second point I want to underscore is from John C. Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And John has 21 laws of leadership that he says applies to all generations and all times. And the law of explosive growth says, to add growth, lead followers. To multiply growth, lead leaders. And in fact, he says, good leaders lead followers, but great leaders lead leaders. And this is absolutely important. Now, your level of leadership ability grows when you are able to lead other leaders. When you are leading up others who are just saying yes men and sycophants around you, people who are not challenging you, and a lot of leaders love that. They love people who don't challenge them, people who don't know anything, people who are ignorant about anything, and they're following them and they're saying, yes, sir, master, yes, sir, madam, and so forth, as we say in Ghana. Now, that kind of leadership is limited, that only followers follow you. But you can grow to a level of leadership where you are leading leaders. And that's where we are coming to. How do you groom others? How do you select others and groom them to be leaders within your organization, within your team, and make them leaders? All right? Okay. So the other thing we need to get, and I'm taking this quote from also from John, it says, there is almost no limit to the potential of an organization that recruits good people, raises them up as leaders, and continually develop them. Absolutely important. For all organizations that have survived generations, the secret is that that organization recruits good people, trains them as leaders, and continually develop them. And I've worked in several organizations, and from where in 25 years in corporate life, I've seen several organizations within competition. We've seen organizations go up and down. Every organization that has survived for so long is because that organization focuses on developing leaders, developing people in different segments of the organization. They groom people to lead in different aspects, and that organization can continue. An organization that doesn't bring out people, leaders within it to succeed the leaders who are leaving, that organization will soon die. That's the reason we have several businesses in our part of the world, in Ghana, in Africa, and other places, where a great man starts a great business, and when he dies, the business dies because that person failed to recruit good people, to raise them to be leaders, and to continually develop them. So the point at this very basic introductory point is for all of us to understand the necessity for leaders to, one, understand that other people can lead, and they can lead only if we can groom them. And number two, organizations will survive and continue and expand only if they are recruiting good people, training them to be leaders, and continually developing them. So if you are a leader, you need to pay attention. If you want to be a leader, you need to pay attention. What we are going to discuss here is for good leaders, successful leaders, and people who want to be leaders, and those who even think they cannot be leaders. Now, the cue we're going to give is that the points about who the leader need to look out for to select them, identify them. If you are in the organization, then you are going to be able to position yourself so that you can also become a great leader. All right. So that is the introductory point we want to make. Now, so the next point I want you to understand is that as leaders, there are, around this topic of developing people, there are several questions that I want to leave with you. And I want to make sure that you put down these questions and find your own answers to them. We are going to try to answer some of them, and so you would the rest that we are not able to answer. These are the critical questions around developing people, around developing leaders around you. Every successful leader answers these questions in a way that is optimal. Number one question is, what is the best way to identify leadership potential in others? What is the best way to identify leadership potential in others? Number two, is developing leaders more art or science? Okay, is the development of leaders an art or is it a science? Number three, how do you help people realize the potential within them or believe in themselves? Every leader should be asking himself these questions and find answers to them. These are questions that successful leaders ask, and they find answers to enable them to develop others. Number four, how can you help people achieve their maximum potential when they are in their comfort zone and cannot care to live there? There are some people who cannot do anything about it. They feel comfortable and they don't want to move. How do you help them? This is a question as a leader you should be asking. Number five, how do you determine how much time you need to give to someone you are developing? All right. So very, very important. Leaders have the time of leaders. Every leader is limited. So when it comes to developing people, how much time do you have to spend? You have to answer. These are questions that leaders ask. Number six, when do you release or give up on people? Every leader will ask this question. I've tried everything. What do I do? When do I say it's okay, I should give up? Should you go Jesus' 7 times 7 times 7 or what? They'll get to a point where you have to give up. So at what point is that? Number 7, have I empowered others to lead? I have empowered others to lead, and I come back to find them without progress. They are back doing the same old things. What should I do differently? So you've tried all the skills you know in the books, but they are not changing. What else do you have to do? Leaders ask themselves this question: how can we overcome disappointment when we invest a lot of time, money, work, and heart into upcoming leaders and they leave? A lot of business leaders have these questions on their mind. I'm going to invest all this money to train them, and then they are going to go to the competition. This is a question that leaders grapple with. Number 9, what's the most important thing a person must learn in order to be a leader of leaders? As a leader of leaders, as we said, there's a leader of followers and a leader of leaders. What do you need to learn? And the last one, how do you move people into your inner circle? Now, this is very important, because a time will come, there's so many people you are grooming, but who do you bring into your inner circle? Okay, the law of the inner circle is one of the 21 irrefutable laws. The people closest to you will determine the level of your leadership. So how do you bring people into it? We are not going to answer all these questions, but we want to encourage you to read around this question, and I would encourage you to read John Maxwell's book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. He has some discussions in this area also for you. All right. So now we're going to try to answer some of these questions in the short time that we have now. All right. Okay. Good. So the first question that we're going to try to answer is, what is the best way to identify leaders? How do I identify people who have leadership potential within your organization? Who should you be focusing on? Now, this is like, you go to an airport and you're going to meet somebody in the airport. How do you know? And there's somebody you have never met, and you have to meet him in the airport. How do you know who the person is? Hundreds of people are getting out of the airport, and I've been traveling a lot, and people come to meet me in the airport. Sometimes they have different ways of showing up. They will come with a placard with your name on it, and then when you see your name, then you know that this is the person who is coming to pick you, or they'll put your organization's name, or they will tell you a specific sign that they will be having, or they will show you a certain place. Now, leaders need to have a criteria for identifying leaders. The biggest thing is that you don't know what to look out for. If you don't know what to look out for in leaders, then it's going to be difficult for you to identify who you should lead. You have an organization of 100, 200, 1,000, and you want to find out who are the people that I want to spend the time to groom, to develop, to train. We're going to give you a few clues that will help you identify the people. All right. So, number 1, within that organization, within your team, who are the catalysts? Now, the catalysts are the people who make things happen. They are not the spectators. They are spectators, people who watch things happen and they comment on it. But there are people who make things happen. I mean, I recently recruited a couple of ladies to my organization. In my office, I've had some flower vase sitting somewhere for God knows when, and there's nothing in the flower vase. I mean, just this evening when I walked into the front, I saw, the flower vase with some beautiful flowers that have been put in it. This lady has been in the office for just less than a month, and she's had this creative idea of beautifying the frontage by a vase that I had bought long ago, and I didn't know what to do with it. This is a catalyst. It's made something happen, and I mean, one of them, we've been in this organization for a very long time. We have so many contacts, and she just, gather around, put all the contacts together. She has all the list of, speakers we've had on the leadership platform yesterday, pull it out with their topics and dates and things like that. They make things happen. Now, look out in your organization for catalysts, because every leader must make things happen. And these people, they may be young, they may be at the lower rank, and they will come to you with ideas, or they do things that even the senior people are not doing. Watch out for those people. Catalysts. Catalysts are people who make things happen. So that's the first category of people you should look out for. The second category are influencers. In fact, John C. Maxwell defines leadership as influence. People who have influence on others, people who other people follow. Now, there are different levels of followership. If the person, only his friends follow him, that's a very low level. But there are some people, his peers follow him. When they are in the meeting, when he speaks, everybody listens to him. In fact, there are some people within the organization, even the bosses listen to him. Now, these people, he can even be a driver, he can be a receptionist, and people listen to him. Because when leaders speak, people listen. This is an indication of people who have influence, because leaders are influencers. You cannot be a leader if nobody is following you. So sometimes you, the boss, you can give instruction to the team to do things, and nobody is acting. But when this person comes and talks, everybody follows him. They listen to him more than even the boss, the person with the title, with the position. That is somebody to look out for. So when you go to the canteen, who is the person that everybody is listening to? Sometimes this person, as I said, is not even at a high level, but everybody is listening to him. He has influence. Okay, that is the person you should look out for and start grooming. The third group of people you should be looking at are relationship builders. There are some people who just build relationship. They know that one. They know that one. You want somebody, he knows them. You know this. You want to look for whatever. He knows where to find them. He has a big network of relationships. That is somebody you should look out for. He knows people. You want something happens, somebody, he knows a policeman somewhere. He knows a custom officer somewhere. You want a doctor, he knows a doctor somewhere. And you wonder, how did you know all these people? He will bring you their numbers. That is a relationship builder, because leaders are relationship builders. And that is an indication. That is how successful leaders identify them. Then there are gatherers. Leaders are gatherers. They gather people around. And there are some people in the organization, by the time you go, they're eating, even just common eating, everybody is around them. They gather people. Wherever they go, it's like a bee. Everybody is following them and gathering around them. Sometimes they are just telling jokes. You go to his office and plenty people are in his office. What are you guys doing in this office? Oh, we just came to see Joe. You came to see Joe, you're not working. This is a sign to you that Joe is a gatherer and somebody you should look out for and try to pick and groom. Then there is the value adders. As John Maxwell would say, the highest purpose of leadership is to add value to people. There are some people who add value to people. There are others who subtract value. And when you find within the organization people who are constantly adding value to people, helping people to do things, bringing changes, doing this and doing that. And when people are down, he's the one lifting them up. And he's the one counseling and advising and supporting. That person is somebody to look out for. That is how successful people identify them. Then the next one is the opportunists. Now here we are not using opportunists in a negative sense, because leaders look for opportunities and they take opportunities to maximize them. These people will look for opportunities. Sometimes they'll come to you and say, boss, when I was in church, some people came to talk about something, or our minister was talking about how they can, invest their money. This is an investment organization. He's just a driver in the investment organization. And he comes to you and says, oh, in our church, they were discussing how to invest their money. So I think somebody should go and see them. That is an opportunist. That is a leader in the making. All right. So look for the people who create opportunities for the organization. And the last but not the least, and you can add to the list, finishers. People who get things done. There are people who just give excuses. But there are some people, you give them some work and they get it done. They don't come with excuses, 1,001 excuses, and nothing gets done. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the thing has not been done. That is not good. But this person, this lady in the organization, anytime you give him something to do, the next morning it's done. Those are finishers, because that is what leaders are. So these are some of the indicators where you can use to identify leaders and groom them up. Now, so we talk about leadership is influence. How does this influence come? How do you see this? What are some of the things you should look out for these people that we have mentioned? Is their influential ability. Where does it come from? You look for their character. Who are these people? What kind of person are they? Relationship. Whom do they know? Okay. Influence comes from the people they know. Knowledge. What do they know? You look into your organization. What have they studied? What experiences did they have? And so on and so forth. Communication. How do they connect with people? These people who connect with people have influence. Passion. There's some people in the organization, they're so passionate about what you're doing. They love the organization. They love what they do. Some people are just there for the money, for the money. And the next morning they will jump the ship. Experience, where they have been. There's some people who have been in different places, different CVs and things, and they join the organization. They have a wide range of experience in different things. It may not be experience even in their own places. And that's why sometimes people apply for a job. They have done so many different things apart from the job advertised. But because of that experience, they will be given the job. Past successes. What have they done in the past? So if you're looking for somebody to groom, you ask yourself, what have they done in the past? Ability. What can they do? That goes into their potential. So these are some of the things you have to look out for as you look for people to groom. Now, the question is, these things, identifying the people and grooming them, is there a method to it, or it just has to be by, accident and it just happens? Because some people think the other way. Up front, let me say that grooming, identifying and grooming leadership is both an art and a science. And let me explain. The art side of identifying and developing leaders is that as a leader, you have to have intuition, your sixth sense. You see somebody and how you feel about the person is so important. You can feel that this is a good person or this is a bad person. That's intuition. You cannot explain, but that is it. It's called gut. That is art. Also, recognizing the talent. Your ability to recognize that this person has this talent is so important. It's something that you may not necessarily have to go through any process. Now, let me contrast the first one, intuition. The science side of it is facts. So you may feel that somebody is a good person, but you may have to find some fact, evidence to establish how you feel about the person. Recognizing talent is an art. It's something that just comes to you. If you have a good sense of hearing and sight, you can see the talent in people by the way they behave. But once you've identified the talent, sharpening the talent would require practice, and that is science. Now, inspiring to performance, the way people are inspired to perform, they encourage, that is an art. There's no science to explain it. But evaluating that performance is a science, okay? So you need both sides. Developing relationship. People just connect. There are some people, they meet you, the next morning they connect. But after you've connected, you have to develop skills that will help enhance that relationship. And that is a science. Now, identifying teachable moments. Now, leaders need to be able to groom people. There are opportunities when you have to look for the right time to inculcate some principles, some habits, some skill to people. And those things come as and when things are going. You don't have to spend so much time. But once you've discovered that this person needs to be groomed, for example, in negotiation, then it takes the science of taking him through training methods in those negotiations or identifying the right training, and that is a science. Okay, knowing when to move is an art. Sometimes intuitively you know that this person has to be moved to this way or to move to that person. You feel that he can do something, but to move the person, you have to prepare him to be able to move. So you need both sides of the art, of the intuition, of the actions, and you need a science which is based on fact, based on analysis, based on process and procedure. You need both to be able to identify and groom people. All right. So next question, and our time is running, so I'm going to, and I'm not going to answer, as I said, I'm not going to answer all the questions. How do you help people realize the potential? Now you have identified the person, either through your intuition or through science, whatever it means. How do you then help the people to realize their potential that you have seen in them, or to even believe in themselves, because some people don't? A few points quickly to guide. Number one, first thing, find evidence that the people want to grow. If this is a decision and a choice by the person you want to grow, you can see the potential, but there's some people have potential, but they don't want to grow. They just want to be where they are. That is not helpful. Okay, so find evidence of potential. 2, identify their strengths and utilize it. Now, most of us focus on our weaknesses, and it's good to know at the early ages where your weaknesses are and to develop them. But leaders look for strengths in people. I remember one of my bosses used to tell us, look, you guys, you know what? Everybody around me, I just look at your strength and I use that. And he gave a weird example to one of our colleagues. He says, this person, I keep him in the team because sometimes I need somebody to go to dinner with. And he knows all the restaurants, he knows all the good wines, he knows everything. And when I'm tired and I want to go for dinner, I need somebody like that. That's his strength. And I keep him in the team for that. And you tell me, this is your strength, that's your strength. And I keep all of you so that together we form this team that we have. So look for their strength and utilize those strengths. Number 3, increase their confidence. Some people have potential, capacity, ability, skills, but their confidence level is low. So if you want to help them, you want to increase their confidence. I'm going to give a few points in the next slide that will help in this dimension. Number 4, give them a place to practice. Give them opportunities. Give them a job to do. Give them some role to play. And that, once you've identified the strength, you give them the job to do. I mean, I remember, as a lawyer, one day, one of my bosses came to me when we're thinking of some acquisitions. He came to me and said, I want you to do a paper on how we can merge with so and so and so institution. And I said, but sir, the finance people are there. Why are you coming to me? He says, I know why I'm asking you to do it. Go and do it. Gave me opportunity, look at the thing, did all the research, and that enhanced my ability in mergers and acquisition beyond what I knew. Okay, so that giving people a place to practice is very important. Then coaching them. Now, a lot of us think that coaching people is shouting on them and say you did the thing wrong and so forth. No, coaching is very, very important for all leaders. Your ability to draw out the best out of them. All of us have the answers within us, but getting the people to believe in themselves and knowing the answers and helping them to identify their potential to move them from point A to point B is a powerful thing that all leaders need to learn. Number 6, keep increasing their responsibilities. The people that you want to groom to be leaders, give them more responsibilities. I tell my team members when I'm giving them a lot, they say a lot. One of my members said, hey, I said, this is on your plate. This is on your plate. He said, hey, there's a lot on my plate. I say, yes, there's a lot on your plate. That is to give responsibility, because I believe that the more you expand people's responsibilities, the more you're grooming them to lead. Because leaders have too many things on your head, and the people have to begin to understand it this way. There are some people in the organization, you give them this to do, you say, this is not my job, that's not my job. If you are that attitude, you're losing opportunity to lose. All right. So how do you help them maximize a few more points? Creating the right environment so that people can grow is absolutely important. How do you do that? Show them a vision for their better future. Some people do not think they can do even more than themselves, but show them how they can be. I mean, I have a houseboy here who was in my office and keeping the office. One day I called him. I said, my friend, how old are you? He mentioned the age. I said, so are you sure you're going to do this work till you are 50, 60? What are you going to do? He didn't know. I said, do you know that you can even become president of Ghana? He was laughing. I said, why are you laughing? He said, you can become president of Ghana. Think about it. What level did you go? He says junior high. I said, high, you're great. They were good, but there was no money. I said, but you can do it. You can go. Yes, your age has advanced, but there's a school nearby. You can go there, go and see the guys. I started encouraging him and telling him, look, how he can become president of Ghana. I tell you, within the next few weeks, this guy was, oh, I went to that school, and I went to that school, and I went to that place. Very soon now, he found a technical school, and he's studying something. I mean, give people the opportunity to see the future, and they'll be able to live up to it. It's absolutely important. Treat them as they are. Treat them not as they are, but as they could be. Yes, at this point, they may be, not very good, not experienced, they're not writing well, they're not speaking well, but don't treat them like that. Treat them as they could be. Yes, you can do that, you can do that. Your expectation of them and how you position them is absolutely important, So, I mean, like this evening, we asked Mami to host the platform. We believe she can do it. So we put her there. We're treating her as she could be, and she will do it. Okay, set people up to win. Some leaders set people up to fail. I had a leader who says, okay, put him into the sea, he swims or sinks. Now, as a leader, you should have an attitude that you're providing all the resources for people to be successful. There are some people who are high achievers within the organization. Treat such achievers as your partners rather than employees. Those that are good. My former boss would always say, look, I don't go to meetings alone. When I'm going to meetings, you take one or two of us with him as partners. And when we go to the meeting, he says, talk, before others. Treat them as partners. Stay ahead of your strongest players. This is absolutely important. The way you want your people to grow, that is how you should grow. Your people should see you growing and improving and do your best. This doesn't mean you should know everything more than them. There may be people who are stronger in some areas more than you. But the point is that they should see you improving constantly. That will motivate them also. Reward higher achievers financially. This is critical because when people are achieving and delivering results and you don't reward them, they will leave. And one of my bosses used to say, show me one good organization, world-class organization that doesn't treat its people well. One. And he said, I'm challenging you. So if you want your achievers to sustain and lead, you have to reward them. Again, invest in them relationally. Be friends with them, relate well with them, attend their parties. They have a birthday party, they have a wedding, they have a funeral. Go with them, relate with them, and they feel confident. stretch high achievers continually. As we've said, give them more responsibility, higher duties, more difficult tasks. Give it to them. And as you do that, you're creating the good environment for them to grow. All right. So we're coming to the end, and I'm not answering all the questions. At what point do you give up on people? So I'm going to answer 2 more questions and we go. At what point do you give up on people? Because there are some people that you can invest so much in it, you can invest so much time, you can invest so much resources, and you are not seeing the results or some other. The 3 points that I want to share on how at the point where you have to say thank you very much. And to before I go to the points, let me say that when you keep low performing people in the team, you discourage the high performers. So it is absolutely important that it gets to a point where you need to have the hard conversation and get people out. Because if you don't separate or get them out, or if you don't, release them, they can be toxic and they can poison the environment. So 3 quick points on at what point you have to give up or release them. After giving enough chance to change, but they haven't. So you're giving them opportunities, the same thing, they're doing it over and over and over and over. They don't want to change the attitude, the character, the performance, whatever the issue is. You've given opportunities and they don't want to change. At that point, it's becoming a problem, not only for you because it's a credibility for you. The other team members would say that you're a weak leader and others will take advantage of it. So you need to deal with that. The second and the most important is when they have broken trust. Now, I used to work in a bank, as some of you know, and the policy of the bank is that everybody is allowed to make mistakes. But you're not allowed to be fraudulent, or you're not allowed to break the rules. If you make a genuine mistake, we'll come around you, support you, and then the mistake will be corrected, we'll find ways out. But if you deliberately break the rules, that goes into trust, that goes into integrity, that goes to honesty, that goes to confidence, credibility. That, at that point, that is a big no. So where trust is broken through fraud and other things, those things, then you are at a point where you have to let people go. And number 3, when you realize you would not hire them again today. Imagine that that person is in front of you in an interview. Will you hire him again? And there are some stuff in organization where you are looking at him, you're making, how did we bring this person into this organization at all? If we were going to interview for this position again, no way, this guy would not come here. If that is your assessment of the person after every effort has been done, then I'm afraid that is a point to give up. All right. Okay. So my final point, you've done everything. You've spent so much time. You spent so much money. You've invested in the people. This is a dilemma for so many organizations. Now, when I used to work in the bank, and when the Nigerian bank started growing to Africa and establishing branches, a time came when one bank will go to a country and they'll offer 3-4 times, and they will take up all the executive committee members from our bank. It was perilous. I mean, the next month they are in another country, and all the senior people, the good people, have left. And these are people that money, time, resources have been spent to train them, to groom them, to run the country, and the business is picking up. And then the next morning they are gone. And there was a lot of call on our CEO to bond people and to so many things. And I remember our CEO at that time, he says, guys, first of all, if people want to leave, why do you want to bond them? Because if you bond them and keep them and they are not happy and they're here, they're not going to perform. Number 2, if they're going into the competition, let them go. because it means they don't fit into our culture. And number three, we are confident that when they go, they will come back because they will miss us because of the environment and the culture we've created. Money is not everything. And then he says, number four, by the way, if they go and they do well, fine, we have trained more leaders for Africa. Now, that was, I mean, for me, it was a mind blowing attitude of a CEO whose people were leaving, but he had this attitude. But it's not an easy thing when you've spent so much money on people and they leave. So, how do you overcome this? Right? My suggestion is simply get used to it. We are in an open market. You groom people, they'll go. Now, let me share this quote of John C. Maxwell to be my final quote and conclusion. He says, you may be tempted to stop investing in people. Don't give up on the process. The only thing worse than developing people and losing them is not developing them and keeping them. I mean, when I saw this quote, it was just, I mean, it's just mind-blowing. The worst thing than developing them and losing them is when you fail to develop them and they don't go. Do you know what happened? There are people who don't develop, who don't develop themselves, who don't grow. They are the people who have nowhere to go. The competition doesn't want them. They themselves don't have any other thing they can do with their lives. And they are stuck with you because you cannot let them go. They are not performing either. And they develop a sense of entitlement and they stay in the organization and cause trouble. Any new person who comes into the organization, they are the ones going to poison them about all the things in the organization. So it's better to groom them, develop them, and let them go and bring in more people. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my presentation. Sarah and Mami, that's my presentation. We need as leaders to be able to identify people in the organization. We need to identify the catalysts. We need to identify the influencers, the gatherers. We need to identify the people who are relationship builders, people who finish things, people who have the right attitude. Identify them and develop them. Create the right environment. Give them responsibility. Reward them accordingly and develop them. But remember, after you've done all that, they will move. Some of them will move. Some of them will move to better positions. They'll move to higher places. Be happy with them. Be happy for them. Recently, one of my ladies who left us, and I just found out she's been appointed to a certain organization, and I was happy to find that, she, as part of her background, she's referencing that, she handled our programs here, and I just put it on our platform. Let us congratulate her. And I sent her a message. Well done, congratulations. The sky is the limit. Move on. That is the attitude that will keep you going and developing more people. So as leaders, let us not be selfish. Let us encourage people. Let us help people to be their best, to develop them to their highest potential. If they become better than you, leave the place for them and move on to do something else. That is what leadership is about. Leadership, your ability to be able to groom people to succeed you, enable you to move on to do other things, is the key to the definition of what great leaders are. And I want to thank all of you for your time. And I want to thank Mami and Sarah for facilitating this. And I'm open to questions and comments. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayim, for such an insightful presentation. We are all happy to know that we are all capable of becoming leaders with the right training and attitude. And our viewers, we are so glad that you are very engaged in the comments section. So I'm going to go ahead and read all your comments. Please feel free to send in your questions and also your biggest takeaway tonight. So I will start with Mr. William Dafour. He says, "Good evening, dear all. Good to be here from Tema." And we have Mr. Gerald Fokuo is joining us from Accra. We also have Mr. Frank Asian from Cape Coast and Douglas Amwate from Tema. Good evening to you as well. And Kwesi Asare Amwako is also joining us. He says he's watching with the family. And yes, so they said they could see the slides and everything was clear. Mr. Kwame Jesse says he's really absorbing the great tips as always. And Martin Esiaku Frando is saying that he's watching from Asin Fosu. We have Miss Catherine Engman. She says, "I love how organized this lady is." Okay, thank you. As for us all ladies. And we have Rose Odai. She says, "Great lessons." And then Miss Catherine Engman comes back to say, may we all be people that bosses listen to." That would be wonderful. That is absolutely true. We have Elikana. Please, I'm sorry if I am not able to pronounce your name properly. Forgive me. Elikana says, "Good evening to you all. It's nice to be here." And Lady Catherine Engman comes back to say, "I am aspiring to be a relationship builder just like you, Sam." And then Dennis Ahe comes back. I think he joined and then he introduced himself. Elikana also comes back to say, "Good evening to you all. It's nice to be back at the leadership platform." You are welcome, Elikana. Dennis Ahe says, "Good evening. Good to be here once again." Joining from Tanzania is Elikana. Lady Catherine Engman comes back to say, "What are some of the ways we can intentionally add value to others?" I think that was a question from her to Mr. Ayim. Mr. Samuel Ayim will clarify that pretty soon. We have Na Adolfo sending us love. Thank you, Na. We love you right back. And then we have Lady Catherine saying that, "I believe, though, that in order to develop others, we ought to have developed ourselves, because we can't raise someone to a higher level of influence than we exhibit." That is very true. We need to fill our cups so that we can efficiently give out. And then we have Lady Catherine Engman. She's very engaged this evening. Thank you so much, Miss Catherine. Says, that is so important. Find out evidence that the person wants to grow." So true. And then we have a question here from Emmanuel Wulo. He says that, "Thanks for the insight. I really appreciate. But for clarification, how do we juxtapose these criteria with the saying that leaders are made and not born? Because I see these qualities as coming to people naturally. But is it possible beyond these naturally occurring ones to groom persons that do not possess these qualities intentionally and deliberately?" So that's a question from Emmanuel. Mr. Ayim, would you please go ahead and start answering our questions, and then we'll pick up on the rest of the questions and comments.
Thank you so much, Mami, for that. And I thank all the people for interaction. And Catherine, thank you so much. Yes, Catherine was asking what are some of the ways we can intentionally add value to people. Um, and then the word intentional is very, very important because a lot of the time people who subtract value do it unintentionally. So the first thing is that you have to be intentional. Every morning when you are going to work, make up your mind that whoever you're going to meet, you are going to add some value. You are going to encourage someone. You're going to lift somebody up. um, a simple good morning and how are you, and actually meaning it, not the usual thing, is very important. And sometimes you come and you see your staff and they're not in the right mood. You have to be interested and find out what's going on. Just listening to their situation, with attention and care is important. And sometimes you have a team member who has issues, challenges in personal life. I remember I've had a boss who says, I don't care about people's personal issues because, excuse me, if I'm going to care about everybody's personal issue, I can't run this organization. Well, that is not smart. Because when you identify somebody has an issue, you don't necessarily have to resolve it, but sometimes listening to the issue is very important. Sometimes even changing a little the schedule of somebody so that you can give them some flexibility in the work is important. If you find somebody who need a skill, you identify a program that they can go through and you help them to go through. That is also intentionally adding value to people. I mean, just, I mean, wishing a happy birthday to people. Or my former boss, one of my former bosses, on a Valentine Day, he will buy flowers for all the girls in the office, and we the gentlemen were a bit jealous. But that is intentionally adding value to people. They just create the spirit and so on and so forth. So little things like that can be very, very helpful. And I agree 100% with Catherine when he says you need to first add value to yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. The true essence of leadership is to add value to people. But how can you add value to people when you yourself, you have not added value to yourself? You've not grown yourself. You've not developed yourself. You're not reading. You're not going to any seminar. You're not going to any training. You're not taking any mentor, any coach. You're not doing anything of a sort. You cannot groom others. Then Willow's question, Emmanuel Willow's question, when we began, we spent some time, I don't know if Willow was around at that time, to explain this point. That is the general feeling that people think that leaders are born. And we said that, yes, there are some people who are born with some natural tendencies to lead. They may have the leadership flair, but that talent has to be developed. It's not enough that you have the talent. And again, the fact that you don't have the natural tendency to lead, for example, when we say leaders are relationship builders, there are some personalities and the phlegmatics, or if you do the disc, the S's and the C's, they don't come naturally building relationships. But with time, with effort, with training, with exposure, with guidance, when they build and connect relationship, they build deeper relationship than the sanguines and the choleric who can connect easily but don't build deeper relationship. So every person can be trained. Leadership principles can be taught, can be learned, and that is why we need to give people the opportunity, give them the training, look for their skills, look for the areas they can add value, and add value to them. So, Mami, those will be my comments or responses to the questions that have come up so far.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
and I
you.
give it back to you, Mami.
Thank you, Mr. Ayim, for all the clarification. So I will move on to Ebenezer Yaboa. He says he's joining us all the way from Abuja and apologizing for joining late. Okay, Ebenezer, you can always watch the replay later and send in your comments as well. So Lady Catherine Engman comes back to say, I think she wants to address Emmanuel's question. He says, leaders are both born and made. We have huge capacity to grow, and we can actually develop the traits that Mr. Ayim mentioned. We all have strengths and become leaders in areas of our strength. So leaders are both born and made. Some children exhibit natural leadership tendencies, but then the environment might make them become timid. If they don't address that when they get older, they will never be the leaders that they were born to be. Catherine says she hopes that helps Emmanuel. And then Catherine comes back to say, Emmanuel, I, I, I have over the last decade been very intentional about developing my leadership through working on myself. My biggest work has been in improving my self-awareness through reflection. She also says to Emmanuel, also, it has been shown that the brain can literally be rewired and we can recreate ourselves. That is absolutely right. Lady Catherine again says, so true about ensuring you discard you discard low performers. Eagles should not be forced to work with ducks. Wonderful. And then Kwamena Aqua says, thank you for sharing. And Lady Catherine comes back to say, absolutely. We ought to celebrate the progress of our staff that leave our organizations. Maintaining relationships with them is important. We have Dinam Zoiku saying that, how can you identify your personal talents and skills and develop them? That is a question to Mr. Ayim that will be answered shortly. And then we have Ebenezer Yabuatufo. He says, thank you for this insightful presentation. Some organizations not wanting to lose people, they have spent a lot of money to develop, brand them for some years to serve the organization. We have Phoebe saying, why bring out the leadership of people when they want to be where they are? That's the question to Mr. Ayim. It will be answered shortly. And we have Rosemary Gazy. She says, educative as always. Proud of you, my leadership and growth teacher, Mr. Ayim. Thank you for the wonderful comment. We have Rose Odai saying, please, must only be the boss who can identify who the next leader is. We have Gerald Foucault coming back to say, how do you handle a potential leader who is perhaps too ambitious and thinks that you are not good enough as a leader, threatening to take your position? Mr. Ayim, please take the floor and answer the questions, and then I'll continue shortly.
All right. Thank you, Mami. All right. So let me take the question from Dinam. Dinam, thank you so much for joining the platform. And you want to know, how can you identify your personal talents and skills and develop them? Now, this is absolutely important, Dinam. because if you usually, I mean, like when you go to school and you have your exams report and you have the A's, you look at the A's, but what do you focus on? You focus only on the D's and the ones you fail. And if you fail only 1 out of the 10, you're just worried about the one you fail. And that school attitude, we've brought it to life, and a lot of the time we are focusing on our negatives. Now, on our growth journey program, for example, one of the exercises we make people do is that they should sit back and write 100 positive qualities about themselves. And then we are doing it right now on our growth journey. We're on week 2, and we encourage you to do. And I've been amazed, and people have surprised themselves just sitting back and looking at the positive qualities. The first time I did that exercise, it was amazing. Again, other exercises will say, list out 100 things that you can do. And I'm sure, Dinam, by the time you write 100 things you can do, by the time you write the 100 positive things you can do, you would find so much value in yourself that God has put there. So that's one way. The other way is, what are the things you do naturally? What are the things that come to you naturally? Some people speak so they can easily speak. Some people don't speak so naturally. Some people connect with other people naturally. So the things that come to you naturally, the things that you do so naturally, that is also an indicator to your strengths, and you can build on them. Another way to find is, what do people say? What are the good things people say about you? What are the positive things people say about you that people say you do well? Now, that is a pointer to your strengths. The things people commend you for, that's a pointer to your strength. So those are some of the things that can help you. But there are also other methods, tools that you can use. There are tools to assess your temperament, for example. And as you see your temperament, usually most of those tools will give you your strengths and your weaknesses. And we have a whole course on the DISC personality profiling, which is an amazing tool. It will identify all your strengths, your weaknesses, the areas of your communication, the way you relate, and it even points you to some of the professions that your personality is more likely to be able to be adaptable to. So those tools, and there are many. There is the My Embrace personality profiling. There are different tools that are used to help you identify your strengths. So in fact, beyond even those ones, there are tools like numerology. People who study numerology would study your numbers in your birth chart, and they will tell you, and it can identify some of the strengths and your weaknesses. There's so many methods that can be used, and we encourage you to explore the ones you're comfortable with, and they will help you. So Zinam, I hope that helps. And then Phoebe says, why bring out the leadership of people when they just want to be where they want to be? Now, my first answer to that is that because you are a leader, and a leader's job is to bring the best out of people. So if the person is in your team, the leader's natural instinct should be to help people become their better self. So people can want to be where they are because they are comfortable. And sometimes they are where they are because they don't know. Also, they are there because sometimes they are afraid. There is fear, the fear of the unknown. If I take this step and I go to that area and I fail, what happens to me? It is the job of the leader to be able to help the person break all these gaps and all these hindrances to their growth. And that is why you are a leader. Unfortunately, because of the understanding of leadership as position, a lot of people are okay that if that's where you want to be, you stay there, me, I'm going. That's not leadership. Okay, bosses can do that, or managers can do that because they just care about the system and profit. Entrepreneurs can just care about the profit and not care about you. But if you want to be a leader, your job is your primary job of a leader is helping people to become their better selves, adding value to people. That is the true essence of leadership. So that is the reason why you cannot allow them to be where they want to be. You want to help them, you want to coach them, you want to help them to become better, their better selves. All right. Let me see what is the next question. Rose wants to know whether it's only the boss who can identify who the next leader is. Well, here we are looking at, let me take it this way. The test of leadership is in succession. If you are occupying a leadership position, your leadership is tested when you are leaving. And the question is, have you groomed somebody to take over from you? That is the question we are trying to answer here. And in that sense, you have to look into your team and help groom. Now, depending upon organizational structures and so forth, you may not be the one to identify your successor or bring somebody who will take over from you. But it is your job to groom the people around you, to say to yourself, if I am not there, who would be able to do this job? And develop them so that when you're not there, the job gets done. But if you're not there and the job doesn't get done, then you have failed. Unfortunately, some people in positions are happy to boast that, you see, when I left that organization, everything is going down. And things are not going there. You see, when I was there, they didn't respect me. And when I leave this organization, everything will go down. That is a defeatist mentality. It is not a leadership attitude. It is wrong. Okay? You want to make sure that when you leave, what you build is surviving, and that the people that you're leaving behind are able to do the job. All right. So so I think as if I can see Gerard is, how do you handle a potential leader who is perhaps too ambitious and think that they are not good enough as leaders, threatening to take your position? All right. Now, I mean, this is always a challenge where you have a boss, and this happens in organizations where people feel threatened and people feel so insecure. Now, these are not really good leaders. Okay, so if you are on the call and you're a leader and you feel so insecure that others are going to take over your job, then you are in trouble, because you are not a leader. Okay, you should be able to develop yourself. If you're not confident in some areas, develop yourself. But if you are the one under a boss who feels threatened, now we have a course on 360-degree leader. We don't have too much time here, but leading up is also important. I want everybody on the call to understand that on this platform, when we talk leadership, we are not talking about the position. You, the person who is in the team, you are also a leader, and you can lead up. It is your job, wherever you are, to help the person up, your boss. Yes, when he's threatened by your skills, it also may depend upon how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, how you show that he's not able to do, or whatever, you are better than him. But if you can humbly go to him, and if you can give him his place and give him his respect, and if you can let him shine if you want, and there's a rule about handling your boss. Let your boss shine. Don't disgrace your boss. Don't tell about negative things about your boss. Don't tell others that you know better than your boss. They will go and tell him. If you do that, then he's not going to have good relationship with you. But if you go to him and you give him ideas and you support him and you genuinely help him to succeed, things can turn around. Things can turn around. So that's what I can say for now. So, Mami, I think I've answered the questions that have come so far. I
Yes.
will give it back to you. I think there's a few more questions. So, yes. And
Yes,
yeah,
we
we
have a
have
few
10 more
more.
minutes. So,
We
yes.
have a few more questions coming in. We have Martin saying that, please, sir, can you elaborate a little on the difference between being a leader and being boss? And then
Okay.
Kwame Aqua says, good evening. Thank you for the presentation. As a leader, should I make it a point to deliberately develop all my team members to become leaders, or I need to focus on a few, particularly those who show desire? My name is Kwamina from Accra. And then we have Douglas Amuate saying, how do you handle non-performing staff in a team of public in a, in a team in a public organization when he or she cannot be easily released from the team? And then we have Conrad Kakraba saying, insightful presentation. We have
Okay.
Kwamina Aqua coming back to say, finally, I apologize for joining late. Please, is there a link avenue through which we can access the presentation? Apologies if that has already been addressed. So that is possible. We will come back to you, Kwamina. And Phoebe says, why bring out the leadership of people who are happy where they are? Okay. And then Catherine Engman says, Martin Esiako, great question. I shall DM a little chart that explains the difference. And then Catherine says again, Kwame Aqua, I love this question. I love that 100 wins exercise, says Catherine. And then we have Frank Essien saying, I believe leaders are more made than born. It is not for nothing that raw material like cocoa beans are not as valuable as processed value added cocoa beans. One may have some natural inclination towards leadership, but that can take one so far. However, when one decides to intentionally develop, learn, study, and add value to his or her natural disposition, that individual will become far more skilled and productive in leadership than the one only relied on their native skills. And then we have Dinam saying that are most successful entrepreneurs not great leaders? Dinam is from Winneba. We have Catherine Engman coming back to say, Frank Essien, I love your perspective. It's all about turning our 5 talents into 10. Catherine again says, great responses, Uncle Sam Ayim, on how to deal with a leader who is threatened by you. And then finally, we have Charles Amu saying, please differentiate between leaders and management. So, Mr. Ayim, I will hand over to you to address the questions and comments. Thank you.
All right. So, let me start with, I guess it was Martin. I think it's Martin who
Yes.
is asking the question. Can you elaborate on a little on the difference between a leader and a boss? And I think Catherine has said that she will send you a table between the differences. And I think on this platform we have shared. So, Martin, I think I will not take the wing out of Catherine, and we can share you the table between. There's a big difference. A boss is positional. He cares more about his position, his job. A boss tells people what to do. A boss controls. He's more caring about his job, but a leader cares more about the people. A leader listens to the people, encourages the people, add value to the people, and takes the people from one point to the other. bosses, and this question is also related to the leadership and management. And we are going to have um, a great speaker, I think, in a couple of weeks to talk to us about what leadership is and management is not. So I'll leave that question for now. We've discussed it before here, but we'll look at it. In summary, management focuses on the processes and resources and so on and so forth. Leadership focuses on people and so on and so forth. But I will leave that one because we're going to have a very, very great speaker speak to that. All right. Now, Kwamina's question is, next question is, as a leader, should I make it a point to deliberately develop all my team members? Well, first of all, you need to develop all your team members, because the more developed all your team members are, the better the team. However, and that's one of the questions we couldn't answer, you cannot personally develop everybody. There is what is called the 20-80 rule. You have to be able to practice this 20-80 rule. You take the top 20 of your team members who give you the 80% of the results. And there's a joke that every situation you find, 20% of the people give you 80% of the results, and 80% give the rest of the 20. In fact, when you go to a buffet, only 20% eat all the 80% of the food. So you, the leader, should focus on the top 20. And the next level, 20, should also focus on the next 20%. And if you do it that way, slowly, all the organization can be developed. So focus on the critical roles and develop them. Douglas's question, how do you handle non-performing staff? I believe our time is getting to the top of the hour, but when you have a non-performing staff in a public organization where he or she cannot be easily released from the team, well, in our sector, in our public sector, that's a completely different system where processes don't work. But if you are in that situation, you have to set up a performance. If you are the boss, set up a proper performance system and evaluation system. And if people are not performing, let them throw them up and let the processes. I'm sure that even in the public sector, there must be some system by which such situations can be handled. So look at the organization, what the policies are, and then handle it appropriately. We are talking about normal systems where, in this situation, where people are not performing, there are consequences, because if one person is not performing, it can affect the whole team. All right. So for Kwamina, yes, Kwamina, this is live on Facebook. It's live on YouTube, so you can get this is recorded. You can also get the presentation on our website, cta-africa.com, soon after we are gone. So if you go on YouTube, you can get it. All right. Phoebe says, why bring out? I think we have addressed this already. People who are happy where they are. All right. So thank you, Catherine and Frank, for all your great contributions. And Zinam asked the question about, are most successful entrepreneurs great leaders? Unfortunately not. Because some people think that because you're an entrepreneur, you can make profits. There's some people I'll call the who have the sense, who can sense opportunity and make money. But making money and being successful in creating business alone is not leadership. Okay, that's the question you should ask yourself: is that successful business person you are working for, if the next morning he asks you to follow him, apart from the money, will you follow him? So leadership is more than just being successful at business. Leadership is more than that. Leadership is when people can follow you with or without that business, with or without that money that you are paying to them. If they're just paying you because of the money, then that is not leadership. And yes, of course, there are great entrepreneurs who are also great leaders. So, but the point is that it's not every entrepreneur who is a great leader. But when you have the business sense, you can bring people in to help you to manage it. All right. So I think we are at the top of the hour. And so we will thank everybody who has joined. So I'll give over to Mami to wrap it up for us. Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining tonight's edition on the Leadership Platform. I believe that you have all learned a lot. You are taking away a lot of key lessons, and as we have all learned, we are all capable of becoming leaders. So you are all welcome to share the link in your community so that it can bless other people. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always come back in the comments, send in your questions and contributions. We are always glad to read them. Thank you all for joining once again, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
And by the way, Mami, let the people register for our leadership platform, for our growth journey. Everybody who is on this call, we encourage you to subscribe and register for the next stream of the growth journey. Already people are learning so much, so we encourage you. Thank you very much and have a very, very good night. Thank you so much, Mami. You've handled it so well, and we encourage you to grow to become the next host of the leadership platform. Thank you so much, Mami.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Sarah, for grooming Mami and bringing her on board. Thank you so much, all the European people, the Amsterdam and the Geneva people. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Good night, everybody. Have a good night.
Hi, dear friend. My name is Samuel Ayim, and I'm the CEO for the Center for Transformational Leadership. And I'm bringing to you the growth journey. We've set aside 15 weeks of growth to help you to be intentional about your growth. Where do you want to reach in your leadership? Which area of your life do you want to grow in? Growth doesn't just happen. It has to be intentional. So in these 15 weeks, we're going to have special coaching sessions with you to be able to grow to where you want to grow. And to be able to grow yourself, you need to know yourself. A lot of us are not achieving the maximum we can achieve because we have not invested in our personal growth. We're going to help you in all and more within these 15 weeks. Every week we'll have a session with you. This program is limited to only 15 people. We're going to have 15 people for 15 weeks, and we're going to learn 15 great growth lessons on this journey. So make a date with us and see you on the growth journey.